Well, it's been nearly 1 month since newly elected Georgia Governor Brian Kemp took office. I'm Chelsea Binefor, and welcome to Close Up. On this week's special edition of the show, we brought it up to Atlanta and spoke to Brian Kemp in the Capitol. Take a look. All right, so first I just want to say thank you for having us up to Atlanta today and inviting us into your office. How has about the first month in office gone? What's it been like?
It's been great. Been a whirlwind. Obviously, the first week with kind of the pomp and circumstance, but it went great. The inaugural speech, I think everybody had a good time. The state of the state, did the eggs and issues breakfast. So a lot of folks from Middle Georgia and the Macon area were up for that. And then we had the gala on Thursday night, and then had a little bit of a kind of hectic schedule between the legislature being in and being out with the Super Bowl being here, but now we're through that, so the legislators are really plowing through, clicking through the days now, so everybody's kind of hunkered down, getting to work.
Biggest accomplishment so far since taking office?
Well, I think just rolling out a great team through our transition, and we've got a lot of experienced people that believe in smaller, limited government, doing more with less, really working on the priorities of things that I promised to people during the campaign, like going after street gangs and drug cartels, doing a teacher pay raise to help combat 44% of our teachers leaving the system the profession within the first 5 years. School safety, we've got some good stuff in the budget for school safety, a $30,000 grant for all 2,294 schools in our state. And then we're also dealing with mental health issues through the APEX program funding for our high schools that will help with problems inside the schools and take a load off the teachers and the administrators and the folks that are in the school. But we're also doing that at the county level too through the Department of Behavioral Health with the $28 million budget addition. So I'm very excited about all that and many other things that we're working on.
Excellent. We dive a little bit deeper back into the gang stuff. I noticed in a press release from Senator Kennedy out of Macon, there was a note about $500,000 possibly being allocated to this gang task force. What would that entail?
Well, we have a lot of really good things rolling out. I just announced the other day that Vic Reynolds, the Cobb County District Attorney, is going to be taking over as head of the GBI. I'm very excited about that. Vic has been a leader on going after street gangs in our state, and that'll be one of his priorities amongst many over there, but he's going to be a great leader. The budget I proposed does have $500,000 in it to create a gang task force within the GBI, which will be seasoned investigators and prosecutors that understand gangs, and not only doing the joint operations or assisting the locals with arresting gang members and kind of going after them on the street, but also getting them prosecuted and getting them locked up and put away, because that's the big key. If you don't know how to prosecute gangs, it can get kind of tricky. A lot of the locals don't have that. But this is not just going to be the GBI, running point on this whole thing. This is going to be a partnership with all folks at the local level, law enforcement, prosecutors. We're going to work with the prosecuting attorneys' councils. We're going to work with our federal prosecutors that are going after drug cartels and gangs as well, and I think it's going to be great. We're going to send a real message to the bad folks in this state.
Keeping on public safety, you mentioned the Super Bowl a few minutes ago. I think that big headline everyone noticed was the sex sting operation, 169 arrested. How big of a win was that for Georgia?
I think it was great. I mean, there was a lot of focus on that. Marty and our 3 teenage daughters and I went to a press conference a couple of weeks before the Super Bowl to help raise awareness. There was a lot of elected officials that were doing that. Our Attorney General Chris Carr and Public Service Commissioner Tim Echols and other people. Delta rolled out a big thing on human trafficking, so there was a lot of focus. But I tell you what, I'm very proud of our federal partners. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, they announced a lot of these things they were doing, and they put some teeth into it and went after these folks. So it was great to see.
Something that will continue, hopefully.
Well, that's the key. It's the Super Bowl we knew was going to be an issue, but now we got to sustain that. We got to continue to have people in the general public, and this is where we need your viewers' help. If you see something that looks improper with young children, potential sex trafficking, please report it to your authorities. We got to continue to have the public be aware of this issue.
All right, still in the public safety category here. Constitutional carry has gotten a lot of press lately. What are your views on that and that one bill that's been proposed that might allow Georgians to not have to have a permit?
Well, I haven't, I'm not really commenting on, there's all kinds of pieces of legislation that are in. There's other folks that are working on different things, and we'll continue to work with everybody. I mean, I've said and I will continue to be a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I hunt and I shoot and I carry, and I won't just support, but I'll advocate. And we'll see what the legislature wants to roll out this year. But my positions from the campaign have not changed.
All right, let's switch gears. Rural broadband. New map came out, or at least I saw it on Monday, from the Department of Community Affairs that showed a lot of still underserved or unserved counties, Monroe County, Twiggs County in our area. What's the plan to try to increase access?
Well, again, we're working with the legislators. That is one of my top priorities. It was, part of an early plan that I have to strengthen rural Georgia, which is, we got to deal with health care in rural Georgia. We got to deal with broadband. I want people's potential not to be decided by their zip code or what county they live in. I want everyone in the state to have opportunities wherever they live. That is my focus. We're doing a lot of things to move the needle there, working on creating an economic development strike team, and the Department of Economic Development to focus specifically on rural economic development, how we work with the local partners to move the needle and provide opportunities in communities where we have good assets to do so. And I'll use my private sector experience to do that. But look, we also have to work on good quality of life, and having high-speed internet is one of them. It's vital for the healthcare delivery that we're going to have in the days ahead, using technology to do things quicker, better, and at lower cost. From an educational perspective and from economic. I mean, you've got to have access to that. So the question is, how do we do that? There was a bill last year to do that. There's one this year that we've already been working with the legislators, House and Senate on. I'm very confident that we're going to get some things done this year. Okay,
teacher pay. Obviously, teachers are excited about this potential increase. Is that, when might teachers actually start to see that in their paycheck? Or
the teacher pay raise is in the 2020 budget, so that wouldn't go in effect till July of this year. We got to finish the rest of the fiscal year out, which ends on June the 30th. But we got to keep that teacher pay raise in the budget. So I would encourage them to talk to their legislators and let them know that they support this effort. It's a big down payment on my promise to raise teacher pay by $5,000. And everyone I've talked to seems to be very supportive of this. We're losing 44% of our teachers within the first 5 years of them teaching in the profession. That's a problem in rural districts. It's a problem in suburban. It's also a problem in urban districts. So this will help with that. And we've got one of our biggest issues in our state is workforce development and having the workforce for tomorrow and today of the jobs that we have available. So that's why we need good educators in our K through 12 system to get our kids ready to go into a good job, whether they're going to get job training in high school through great programs like Ag Ed and other things, or in CTAE, or whether they're going to move on to our technical college system or our university system.
I might be wrong, but during your inauguration speech, did you say teacher pay might be $3,000? Was that number ever thrown out there, or is $5,000 the plan?
$5,000 was the campaign promise. This year in the budget, we have a big down payment on that of $3,000. So eventually, we're going to get to $5,000. It's just going to take us a year or two to do that. It's a pretty substantial budget impact. So we're just having to phase it in to be able to afford to pay for it. And then also, we have $69 million in school safety grants, $30,000 for all 2,294 high schools. We have $8.4 million to help with the APEX program, have more counselors in our high schools. So all of that money is also going into education. And so it's it's a lot of money, but I believe it's warranted. It's people see the need for it. It's going to take us just a few years to get to the 5,000, but it's my commitment to do that as long as the economy holds. So that's what we're hoping for.
And it's not just veteran teachers; it's every teacher, right, in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, the way we structured it actually helps the newer teachers more because it's a flat $3,000 raise. But those are the teachers that we're losing. But everyone's still getting a raise, and then we're also doing a 2% pay raise for state employees, which is very important as well.
All right, so last night, State of the Union, obviously one of the big topics, illegal immigration, the wall. We could be headed towards another government shutdown. If we were to go back into that, how would that affect Georgians? Is that something you would support or not support?
Well, I certainly support the president. I thought he did a great job on the speech last night. He ran on border security and protecting our border and protecting our country. A lot of these gangs and illegal drug cartels are coming in through our southern border, and he wants to do something about it, and I certainly support him in that. The Democrats have voted for, border wall funding in the past. I think they're just playing politics with the issue, but I certainly hope there will be some movement to have a bipartisan agreement on how we move forward, and give everybody a little bit of everything and not shut the government down. But if we do, our state's in good shape to handle that. We've been monitoring that during the other shutdown, and we were hanging in there just fine. And if it does happen again, we'll start assessing what the end game is if they're going to be at a long, drawn out thing again.
Familiar face gave the rebuttal. What did you think of Stacey Abrams' response, or did you watch it? Or?
Well, no, I did not watch it. I've been busy being governor of Georgia. That's where my focus is, and I didn't watch it.
All right. The election system, I guess, post your election, a lot of Democrats have been calling for paper ballots or a new system. So, what are the plans for that? What's going on with the?
Well, I'm glad the Democrats are calling for a new system now, because we've actually been leading on that issue for about a little over a year and a half now. When I created the, we did a pilot project in the city of Conyers that nobody ever talked about. They act like it never happened. We did a lot of hard work during the legislative session last year, working with the legislators to come up with the bill, because the law has to be changed to change the voting system. The Secretary of State, whether it was me or Brad Raffensperger or anybody else, cannot unilaterally do that. And the legislature couldn't ever reach an agreement last year, so I created the SAFE Commission. They came out with recommendations for a system that has a ballot marking device and a paper verifiable audit trail, which I support. I feel like you need the ballot marking device for the disabled, for them to be able to participate like they should in our elections. It's very difficult for them to do that with paper. And if you look, most of the fraud that we deal with in elections happens with paper ballots. And you get the best of both worlds with the recommendation the SAFE Commission came out with. But that being said, the legislature has to weigh in on that. That's happening right now, but I'm very confident we'll get a bill done this year. We have held some money in the bond package to be able to pay for the new system once it gets done, and we took the lead on that issue, and now it's coming to fruition. It's time for us to do that.
How much money was put aside for that?
I think we're holding like $150 million just to make sure we have enough, but it'll go through a robust procurement process through the Department of Administrative Services, just like we did with our voter registration system. There'll be several different agencies involved in that, so it won't just be the Secretary of State picking the vendor. There'll be a good working group, a very transparent process like all big state procurements are, and that's how it will work.
So essentially that would be someone goes, votes electronically, and then it prints out like a copy?
Well, they mark their ballot on the ballot marking device. And
which is electronic, right?
Right, but it prints a paper ballot out that you actually hold in your hand, and you look at your selections, and if you're satisfied with those selections and that's how you want to cast your ballot, you would take that ballot over to a scanner. You would scan the ballot, it would count your vote electronically, and then the ballot would fall into a lockbox. And so that way you're counting electronically, so you still have the speed of a fast count on election night, which is what people are used to. But if you ever get in a really tight race and you need to have a hand recounted election, recount, then you could pull the paper out and do the hand count as well as the electronic.
You think this is the best option for Georgia?
I mean, that's personally what I think is the best way to go. There's a lot of other people, many of them that don't live in Georgia, that want us to go a different route. But I'm gonna work with the legislature and see what they're thinking. and we'll go from there.
All right, almost done. Devil's advocate question, is there anything over the campaign trail or since you started that you regret?
Oh, I'd hate to go back and, you don't really have second choices in politics. I mean, I worked hard every single day. My wife and our 3 teenage daughters did as well. You can always look back on a campaign and say, well, I wish I hadn't done that or wish I hadn't said this, but I was pretty consistent on the campaign about making Georgia #1 for small business, reforming state government. We've created the Putting Georgians First Commission that's going to go after ridiculous government regulations and red tape and figure out ways to streamline government so we do more with less. Nobody's been more passionate about strengthening rural Georgia than me, and I'm absolutely going to put Georgians first every single day that I'm in this office. And one of those things is keeping them safe and going after drug cartels and street gangs. And, that is my mission. And that's what I talked about, and that is exactly what I'm going to do.
Just to wrap up, next goal, biggest goal, next thing on your to-do list.
Well, my goals are to do what I said. It's very simple. I said many times people can trust me to do exactly what I told them on the campaign, stand up for our conservative values, to push the agenda that I talked about, and we're doing that. We're not going to be able to do everything in year 1, but we've rolled out a lot of it, and we're working hard every day, so we've got to continue to push that for the next several months to get our stuff done through the legislative session, to work with the legislature to get our budget priorities funded. But they're going to have their priorities too, and I understand that as a former legislator, and I'm looking forward to working with them to do that so that we continue to have the best state in the country to live, work, and raise our family.
And that concludes this week's special edition of Close Up. I'm Chelsea Bime for Randall Savage returns next week. Thanks for watching.